Life Stories presents a heartwarming and thought-provoking journey of a mother who, in the face of family pressure, chooses to prioritize her child's safety over appearances. Grace, a devoted mother, finds herself torn between family expectations and the well-being of her daughter. Lily, when a luxurious, trendy crib becomes a symbol of family expectations, Grace must navigate difficult conversations and make tough decisions. Join us today as we follow her path of love, sacrifice, and self-discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to start today's story. My name is Grace, and I once lived a life in the bustling heart of New York City. As a buyer at a high-end department store, I had a front row seat to the world of luxury and trends. I was surrounded by beautiful things, the finest fabrics, and the latest designs. It was a life I had worked hard for. But when I became a mother, everything changed. The moment I held Lily, my daughter, in my arms, the world of shopping and fashion seemed so far away. It wasn't that I had any animosity toward those things. I just found myself drawn to something simpler. Something far more important. My days now revolved around taking care of Lily, feeding her, making sure she was safe, and making her laugh. It had been a difficult decision to leave my job behind, but I had made it with a deep sense of contentment. Sam, my husband, was supportive, even though his work as an engineer kept him busy. His gentle brown eyes always showed signs of fatigue, but they never failed to fill with affection when he looked at me or Lily. I could see how much he cared, and I was certain that staying home with our daughter had been the right decision for me. The decision felt like a new beginning, and I knew I was doing the most important thing I'd ever done in my life. It was a sunny May morning when it all started. I stood by the window, watching Lily nap under the shade of a Japanese maple tree in the garden. The gentle breeze rocked her bassinet, and the sight of her peaceful, sleeping face filled me with an overwhelming sense of love. I sipped my coffee, feeling a deep sense of happiness and gratitude. She was everything to me. Then, from behind, I heard Sam's familiar voice. "Is Lily still asleep?" He emerged from his office, his face weary but warm with affection. "Yes, she finally fell asleep," I replied. "She was crying all night yesterday, so I really hope she stays asleep today." Sam walked over to the window and put his arm around my shoulders. "You're doing such a wonderful job, Grace. Lily is a lucky little girl." I smiled and leaned into him, feeling his reassuring presence. It was one of those rare, peaceful moments when everything seemed perfect. But, as it often happens, that peace was short-lived. My phone rang from the living room, breaking the silence. I saw the name, Rachel, on the screen. "My sister." I sighed, already anticipating the conversation. "It's Rachel again," I said to Sam. "I'm sure it's about that fancy baby crib she gave us." I answered the call, already bracing myself for the conversation I had been dreading. "Grace, are you using the crib yet? I want to see some photos, upload them to Instagram." Rachel's voice came through with that all-too-familiar urgency. I closed my eyes for a moment, gathering my patience. "Not yet," I said. "Lily still seems to prefer her bassinet. It's just easier for her at the moment." Rachel didn't seem convinced. "She must have gotten so big by now. That crib you've got is really popular among celebrity moms. The Elite Sleeper can be used from 6 months to 3 years. You should try it out." "I know, Rachel," I said, trying not to sound too frustrated. "But she's still not ready for it." "I promise. I'll let you know when we start using it." I could hear the disapproval in Rachel's voice. "Mom's really disappointed that you're not using it. She was hoping it would be the perfect gift for Lily. You know how she feels about these things." I felt my chest tighten. "Can't we just do things at our own pace?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. After hanging up, I sat down on the sofa, feeling a bit deflated. Sam joined me, his brow furrowed. "Same conversation again?" I nodded. "Yeah, Rachel and Mom can't seem to understand that it's not about the crib itself. It's about what's best for Lily. They think that because it's expensive and fashionable, it's automatically the right choice. They don't get why I'm not rushing to use it." Sam sighed. "You can't win with them sometimes." I knew he was right. Family dynamics had always been tricky for me. My mother, Susan, a retired high school teacher, was deeply involved in the local social scene. She cared about appearances, perhaps more than anything else. And my father, Thomas, though mild-mannered, tended to follow whatever Susan or Rachel said. My family loved me, of course. But sometimes their ideas of what was best for Lily felt so far removed from my own. Later that day, Sam handed me an email from my mother. They were coming to visit this weekend, both my parents. Sam joked that they were probably coming to check on the crib. I smiled faintly, but we both knew the truth. It wasn't just about the crib, it was about my choices as a mother. The weekend arrived with the usual excitement, but I could feel the tension building. Sam and I had tried to put the crib out of our minds. But deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before my family would bring it up again. I wasn't sure how I was going to explain my concerns about the crib. But I couldn't ignore the unease I had felt since the moment it was delivered. I remember the day the crib arrived at my baby shower. It had been a beautiful, sunny day, and the garden was filled with pastel pink and blue balloons. Friends and family had gathered, congratulating me, and I smiled, cradling my growing belly. I had been excited, until the moment they brought out the gift. Susan and Rachel had brought in a large box. And when I opened it, I found the Elite Sleeper. A luxurious crib with glossy white wood and delicate gold decorations. It was undeniably stunning. "It's perfect for you, Grace," Rachel said with a wide smile. "It matches your minimalist style." I had forced a smile, trying to hide my discomfort. It was too much, too lavish. I had never expected a gift like this. It felt like the type of crib you'd see in a celebrity's nursery. But it wasn't what Sam and I had chosen. We had already selected something simple, practical, and safe for Lily. "Thank you," I said, my voice trailing off. "It's beautiful." But deep down, I felt uneasy. Why hadn't they asked me what I wanted? Why hadn't they checked with us before picking out something so extravagant? The discomfort lingered even after the party. Later, when Sam was loading gifts into the car, Rachel had grabbed my arm and whispered, "Thanks for pretending to be happy in front of everyone. I could tell you didn't like it at first. But trust me, this will make you the envy of all the other moms." I smiled weakly, not knowing what else to say. I was just surprised. "Thank you." Back at home, I read through the instruction manual for the crib. It was full of descriptions about luxury materials and phrases like, "the ultimate sleep experience," and "chosen by celebrity children." But I couldn't find much about safety. There were no details about the materials used or whether it had been properly tested. Something felt off. I wasn't being paranoid, I was just being cautious. Lily's safety was the most important thing. And I didn't feel comfortable with the lack of information. I showed the manual to Sam. "What do you think?" I asked. He glanced over my shoulder. "It certainly looks beautiful," he said, "but I don't know. Something about it feels off." I agreed. So, I did what I always did when I had a feeling about something. I researched. I searched for reviews of the Elite Sleeper online. And while there were plenty of photos from celebrities and influencers showing off their babies in the crib, I couldn't find any practical reviews. There were no discussions about safety or how the crib functioned beyond its appearance. The next day, I met my best friend, Sarah, for lunch. Sarah had been a colleague when I worked at the department store. And despite my departure from the fashion world, we had remained close friends. I could always count on Sarah to tell me the truth, no matter how difficult it might be to hear. I showed Sarah the photos of the crib on my phone. "It certainly looks beautiful," she said, examining the pictures, "but it prioritizes appearance over practicality." I felt a rush of relief. I thought I was being neurotic. I confessed, "I'm just so worried about safety." "You're a mother, Grace," Sarah said, giving me a reassuring smile. "You have every right to be concerned." We spent the rest of our lunch discussing the crib. But it was clear that Sarah shared my reservations. She even mentioned that she had heard whispers about this brand being more concerned with luxury than safety. And that made me even more uneasy. That afternoon, Sam and I put the crib together. The assembly instructions were clear, and everything seemed to fit together well. But as we finished putting it together, something strange happened. The smell from the crib was overpowering, an unnatural, chemical scent that didn't seem right. "Doesn't this smell strange?" I asked Sam, frowning. Sam sniffed the air. "It's just a new product smell," he said. "It'll probably fade away." But I wasn't convinced. I had learned never to ignore my instincts, especially when it came to Lily. So, I decided to test the crib out with Lily. I gently placed her in the crib, hoping she would settle peacefully as she usually did. But as soon as she was near it, she began to squirm. Her face flushed, and she rubbed her cheeks with her tiny hands. I quickly moved her out of the crib and into the other room. Within moments, the rash on her face started to fade, and she calmed down. My heart sank. This wasn't a coincidence. The next day, I conducted an experiment. I brought Lily near the crib again. As soon as she was close, she started coughing and rubbing her face. The same rash appeared, and I immediately took her away from the crib. My anxiety was growing, and my worst fears were starting to come true. "Sam," I called out, "there's something wrong with this crib. Lily seems to be having an allergic reaction." At first, Sam was skeptical, but when he saw the photos of Lily's rash near the crib and then her clear skin once she was moved away from it, his expression changed. We both realized that this wasn't just a reaction. Something about the crib was causing it. I knew then that we couldn't keep using it. But what about our family? What would we say to them when they visited this weekend? I was worried about their reaction. But above all, I was terrified for Lily's health. This was no longer just about a luxury item. It was about the safety of my child. The weekend came faster than I had expected. And with it, my parents and Rachel arrived at our home. There was a sense of unease hanging in the air, thick with unspoken tensions. I could tell that Sam and I weren't the only ones who were on edge. My mother, Susan, seemed to have already made up her mind about what she thought was best for Lily, and Rachel, with her usual enthusiasm for luxury and status, wasn't far behind. As soon as they walked through the door, I knew the moment would come, the moment they would notice that the elite sleeper was no longer in Lily's room. "Grace, Emma's grown so much," Susan said, reaching for Lily, her usual brightness hiding the scrutiny behind her eyes. I handed her Lily reluctantly, my hands shaking slightly. "Yes, she has. Thank you for visiting." Rachel's eyes immediately shifted to the new crib in the corner of the room. "What's this?" she asked, her tone casual but pointed. "Where's the crib we gave you?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I had to be honest with them, but I wasn't ready for the fallout. "Rachel, I need to talk to you about something," I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "There's something wrong with the crib you gave us." Susan's face hardened as she handed Lily back to me. "What do you mean?" she asked, folding her arms across her chest. I swallowed hard. "I'm not sure what's in the crib, but Lily has had allergic reactions every time we've tried to use it. I've done some research, and I think it has chemicals in it that aren't safe for babies." Rachel scoffed. "You're just being neurotic, Grace. Babies are sensitive. Thousands of babies use that crib, and I've never heard of any problems." I tried to keep my voice calm, but the frustration bubbled up inside me. "It's not just sensitivity." Lily started coughing and breaking out in rashes every time she was near it. "I think there's something dangerous in it." Susan turned to my father, Thomas, who had been silent up until this point. "Thomas, do you hear this? She's saying the crib we bought is dangerous." Thomas looked back and forth between Susan and me. He sighed and spoke quietly. "If there's a problem, Grace, it's worth investigating, isn't it?" Rachel was not convinced. "This is ridiculous. It's a luxury crib, Grace. There's no way it's harmful." I stood my ground. "I've seen the reactions myself. It's not about being neurotic. Lily's health is at risk." The conversation was quickly escalating, and just when I thought it was about to spiral out of control, Sam came in from work. Sensing the change in the air, He immediately understood what was happening and walked over to the crib. His face solemn. "I'll show you," Sam said, his voice firm. He gently picked up Lily and placed her near the crib. Within moments, the same rash appeared on her delicate skin, and her breathing became shallow. Her tiny hands rubbed her face, and she started to cough. "Look," Sam said, his voice tight with worry. "This is what happens every time she's near this thing." I felt a wave of relief. For the first time, I wasn't alone in my concerns. Susan and Thomas were both visibly shaken, and Rachel's defiance started to falter. I didn't believe it either. I said quietly, "But I know what I saw. I can't put Lily's health at risk." There was a long silence, filled with the weight of what had just happened. Then Rachel spoke, her voice quieter than before. Maybe I should have listened," she murmured. "I didn't want to be the one to cause a rift," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "But I can't just ignore it when my daughter's safety is at stake." The room was thick with emotions, guilt, regret, understanding, and, above all, the painful realization that we had allowed our desires for appearances to outweigh what was truly important. Before anyone could speak further, Natalie, one of Sarah's friends, arrived with her laptop in hand. She had been investigating the crib as well. "This isn't just about one family's concern," she said, opening her laptop. "There are bigger issues here. These products are being sold as luxury items, but they don't meet safety standards." She showed us the evidence, articles about the manufacturer bypassing safety regulations and pushing its product as something far more prestigious than it actually was. My heart sank as I realized how much my own family had been misled by the marketing. "Grace, I'm so sorry," Susan said, her voice soft with remorse. "I should have trusted you. I'm sorry for putting you in this position." Rachel's face flushed, and she avoided my gaze. "I didn't know. I thought I was doing the right thing. Buying something so high-end." I held Lily close to me, the weight of the situation pressing on my chest. I understood now that this wasn't just about the crib, it was about something deeper. The pressure to conform, to keep up with appearances, had clouded their judgment. They hadn't considered the consequences of their actions. And that was what I had to fight against. "Thank you for understanding," I said quietly. "I know it's hard to accept, but I had to do what was best for Lily. We all need to be more cautious about what we trust, especially when it comes to our children's safety." It wasn't going to be an easy road to reconciliation, but in that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope. My family had been forced to see the truth, and maybe, just maybe, they would learn from this experience. As time passed, the tension that once strained our family began to ease. Slowly, my parents started to understand the importance of prioritizing Lily's health over appearances. Susan, who had always been so concerned with status, began to shift her perspective. It was a difficult journey, but in the end, it brought us closer. Rachel, too, found a new direction, turning her focus to products that were truly safe for children. I could see the change in her. Less about impressing others and more about making practical choices for the ones she loved. The elite sleeper brand eventually recalled its products, though they never publicly acknowledged the issues. But for us, it wasn't about the crib anymore, it was about the lessons we learned. It was about trusting my instincts as a mother, standing up for what was right, even if it meant challenging those I loved the most. My family had changed, and so had I. 6 months later, our family gathered for a brunch in the garden. Lily, now a curious toddler, ran under the shade of the flowers, her laughter filling the air. My parents, now more supportive, smiled as they watched their granddaughter play. The rift had healed, and as I looked at them, I felt a deep sense of peace. We were learning, evolving, and, most importantly, loving each other more than ever. I knew there would always be challenges ahead, but I also knew I had the strength to face them. For Lily, for my family, and for myself. And with that, I smiled, feeling the warmth of the sun and the assurance that I had made the right choices for the people I loved the most. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming life stories.